What's going on, guys, and welcome back to LOI Fan TV. And today we are doing our long-awaited LOI Premier Division League table predictions. We'll also be doing our Player of the Year predictions, Young Player of the Year predictions, Top Goal Scorer predictions, and FAI Cup winner predictions at the end as well. So make sure to stick around for that. Joined today, Adzi is back on the channel. Adzi, how are you, my friend?
Not too bad. Finally, the league's back and finally being back here. It's been a while, but
Yeah,
I'm absolutely buzzing to get going this weekend. It's gonna be a cracker, I feel, of a season.
yeah, gonna be very, very good. And we have a brand new face on the channel as well. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to welcome Con on the channel. How are you doing, mate?
Very good, Ross. Thanks for having me. Absolutely buzzing to get this league back underway. The winters always goes that bit longer when you've no Friday night football.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more. And it's great to get another Shells fan on board as well. No bias in the selection progress.
Surrounded by them, Jesus.
If you do want to enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like on it down below and make sure to subscribe as well. Much appreciated. Plenty of content coming throughout the campaign. Right. League table prediction time, lads. 10th place. I've a feeling this could be unanimous. I'll kick us off. I've gone for the students, UCD. What we thinking?
Yeah,
Yeah,
fully agree with that. Has to be done.
I'd agree with that one. They've lost Colin Whelan up front. They've lost Tom Lonergan. They've lost Evan Caffrey in midfield to Shells.
Yeah.
Don't know, but there's probably a couple more there as well. I mean, look, it's always difficult for UCD in recruitment, and they always tend to lose as soon as they produce a bit of a diamond in the rough. They tend to be off somewhere else pretty quickly. So they deserve great credit for hanging on. They deserve
Definitely.
great credit for staying in the league, winning that playoff last year against Waterford. But I have a feeling this year, I suppose the other thing about last year is, you had a bottom two that were really way off the pace.
Yeah.
Um, the other side is UCD stayed up, yes, because they absolutely deserved it in terms of winning that playoff with Waterford, but also they had a really poor Finn Harp side in the league as well. And
Yeah.
the two of them were miles off the rest and very little between them. So you'd imagine Cork will be a lot stronger than Finn Harps
Yeah.
were. And so UCD will be down there on their own, really.
Ninth place. I think there could be a little bit of disagreements potentially, obviously over the relegation playoff spot. Adzi, I'll go to you first. Who have you gone for here?
Going for Drogheda. So I am. The fact they've lost, a few experienced players like Dane Massey gone to Bray and stuff as well. Um, and so on, stuff like that. I feel their time is limited. I can't remember they've had a few other transfers out because they did have a good young team last year and stuff as
Yeah.
well. So I'm going for Drogheda, especially now when you have a Cork team coming up that they're quite young, they're hungry. Same like as if it was Shells last year. They're gonna be looking to prove a point, especially with a massive club like Cork. They're gonna come up and, place. But I think Drogheda will fall into the playoff category.
I would agree with that. I reckon Drogheda will kind of struggle as well. You never know. There are three or four clubs in the mix. It was fairly unanimous that UCD would finish bottom ninth. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, who knows? Shells could go either way.
Yeah.
Um, Cork are new in the league. We don't know how it'll go with them, but I'm going to go with Drogheda as Adam said there. They've lost quite a bit of experience. They've lost, as you just said, Dane Massey. Lyons has gone. And another one is Andrew Quinn, who is gone to Shelbourne. Now,
Yeah.
you mightn't say he mightn't have been the biggest star in that Drogheda team, but I do think when you're losing players to the clubs you're going to be directly competing with, that spells trouble.
I'm actually surprised because I've gone for Drogheda, but I didn't expect either of you to do it. But it is unanimous once again for ninth spot. I thought someone might have gone for Cork in there. It probably is, well, realistically maybe a toss up between the two. But yeah, I've gone for Drogheda as well as you kind of touched on. There is a long list of departures. Andrew Quinn was an important player from last season. He's a very good young player, played a lot of games. I think it's a big ask from a lot of young players there as well. And I think I've gone for Cork in eighth. I'll jump into them, but I think being up in the top flight for the first season, the fans behind them, the kind of club will be in a really good place, and I think that should be enough for Cork to just finish outside that playoff spot.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. The one thing I think with Cork this year, they've got a young lad in on loan from Celtic. They've a lad in from Macedonia, two in from Sweden. So they're one where, the new players they brought in are not names and faces we're familiar with. We haven't seen them before. So who knows? I mean, if they hit the ground running and if they are players of a really high caliber, we could see Cork push up the league table a bit. But I'd have to agree with you. I would have them newly promoted, consolidate their place in the Premier Division and in that 8th spot.
3 in a row here going for
Yeah.
Cork again. I think Ross, you said they're going to get a massive crowd in Turner's Cross this year. First time back in the top flight.
Yeah.
They'll definitely average about 4,500 for attendance, which is, the usual in Cork. I think everyone gets behind any team down in Cork, to be honest. And like that, they've a good young team. They have signed a few players up from their academy as well, and no doubt they're going to be using that system throughout, just to try and get them up, and sort of like against Shells last year, getting them up and setting a basis for them, and then moving on from there. But no, I'll go with Cork and 8.
Quick apology to Liam. He has COVID, so he can't be here tonight. He's sick, but he has started a new role with Drogheda. So apologies to him that we've all gone for Drogheda in that 9th spot. But Con, 7th place. Who do you think?
7th place, I've gone with Shells. I was hoping coming into the new year, like last year obviously was a very positive year for Shelbourne. Again, consolidating that place in the Premier Division was everyone's priority at the club. Getting to the FAI Cup final, regardless, the less said of the day itself, the better. But getting to the cup final was absolutely huge for the club. Getting a crowd at the Aviva for first time in a hell of a long time. It really was Shells announcing themselves back in the big time, where they belong. Adam, you might have something to say about that, but in my opinion, where they belong. But yeah, so we've lost Stephen Negru, which will be a bit of a loss. Clark gone in goal. They've brought in Conor Cairns from Galway. Look, they've signed well. They've signed players of a decent caliber, the likes of Paddy Barrett from Pats, Tyreek Wilson coming in from Bowes, Kyle Robinson, and Evan Caffrey, as
Maddie
well
Smith.
as the big one
Permanent
is
as well.
Maddie Smith.
Yeah.
The big one's Maddie Smith. Yeah. So I don't think Shells will disimprove from last year. I think they will continue to evolve as a side, to gradually improve, but I'm not expecting any miracles this year. I think 7th place would be a decent season.
Yeah, quick one on that. Obviously there was talk of investment coming in towards the end of last year, and it seemed to kind of go not kind of transpire in the end. And Duff kind of hinted at it being like a big blow. Do you think like that could be a factor on the pitch and the player? Like the club is a little bit kind of not stalling, but a little bit kind of reeling from the loss last season, the cup final, and then not getting that investment. As it kind of blow after blow, or will they kind of recover from that?
Quite possibly, but there's a very positive atmosphere around Talca Park. I think the fact that the stadium itself was saved last year is a big emotional boost to everyone. And as I said, there's a decent squad there. We're not expecting any miracles. The fans and the players have a great relationship. There's a great togetherness about the club. I'm not expecting miracles at all, but I don't think it'll be too much of a blow. No, I don't. As I said, look, the goal for Shells has to be to gradually improve year on year and avoid kind of falling into that trap of being a yo-yo club that goes up and down every couple of years, which has been the case since 2006. So, would it be a dream to go pushing Europe next year? Of course it would, but as I said, another mid-table finish, and if they show signs of some sort of continuous improvement, that'll be a good year for Shells. And I don't think they'll be too disheartened going into the new season now.
No. Does Damien Duff finish the year as manager?
He does.
Yes, 100%.
He's going nowhere.
Yeah. Adzi, who do you have?
I think we do have the same table, because I have Shells at 7th as well.
Wow.
So I do. No, pretty much, I was going to touch on the investment bit. I thought Shells would have got something which would have, boost them a little bit. So I think with Shells themselves, they are massive, in fairness to them. Signing Matty Smith and keeping him on, I think, was huge. I think when he signed on loan from Derry last year, he just brought that something extra to them. You saw it in the games towards the end. They were challenging big teams. He was a massive loss for the cup final. I think that was obvious to see. He was getting Shells forward. He was pressing them forward. No, I still think they'll finish like a good bit off. Like, I think last year, what was the gap between them and the playoff spot? Like 20 points or something in the end.
Yeah,
something outrageous. So they'll finish comfortably, I think, as well.
First time someone's gone against the others. I've gone for Sligo in 7, Sligo Rovers, and primarily due to the loss of Aidan Keenan, their talisman from last season. I believe he nearly scored almost 50% of their league goals last season, so it's a hugely significant blow to lose him. I think he's gone over to League One. A lot of their signings are unknowns to the league, so it is a tricky one where like they come in and absolutely boss it, and then we're having a different conversation in a couple of months' time. But for me, I'm not overly convinced by the business. I'd like the John Mahon signing, quality centre half, but I'm not overly convinced by the business, and I'm not overly convinced by the gaffer either. So, for me, I think Sligo could have an off year this year and slide into seventh place.
I have to agree with you. I think Sligo are going to struggle in this coming season. I had them just above that position in sixth. As you say,
Same here as well.
Yeah, Kane gone is a massive blow. McDonald's gone to Bows. Paddy Kirk's gone back to Bows.
Yeah.
There's more business than you want to see. As you say, quite a few new players in, and a lot of them that we would know very little about because they're coming in from leagues. As you say, Sweden, Estonia. So as you say, if these lads turn out to really hit the ground running, who knows? They could be better than we expect, but based purely on the fact that really there's very little. It seems to be an absolute huge turnover of players there this window. And as you say, Keane, one of the best players in the league last year, they're going to really struggle without him. And then the fact that it's nearly a new 11 they'll be putting on the field this Friday doesn't really bode well for them.
I wouldn't say struggle, but they'll pick off results here and there from some of the teams they have on the top here. But like that, they'll lose this. They could lose games heavy, but I think they'll maintain themselves too as well.
He's about to have gone for Sligo in sixth, and I've gone for one that hopefully causes ruffles some feathers. I've gone for Bohemians in sixth place, bottom half finish for them, and it's like I think they've signed a new centre half today, a Polish fella on loan, but that's obviously a hugely concerning area to picture. And I think they only have Grant Horton at the club at the moment. He's a centre back, and obviously this new fella as well. So really, really poor and light defensively. So which is a huge concern. And I'm just not overly convinced by the business in general. Keith Buckley coming back will be a boost, but he's had to take a year off in Australia, so who knows what kind of shape he's coming back. Will he be the same player? Adam McDonald is a nice little pickup. Paddy Kirk is coming in. He's a decent left full. But I'm not overly convinced. Dean Williams, Akintunde, isn't it, up front? They brought in Dylan Connolly. I think they're worse this season than they were last season. I think they have a worse squad coming into this campaign than last year. Maybe they've got better players or better attitudes coming in, which could be a big factor for them. But yeah, for me, I'm just not overly convinced by them at all. I saw a lot of people on Twitter today, a lot of Bows fans putting them as high as third in the league, and I'm not sure if they're trying to wind people up or if they're just playing stupid, but that is an outrageous take. Bohemians will finish nowhere near the top 3 or even 4 in my opinion, and I'm expecting a bottom half finish for them this year.
Don't sit on the fence.
That's it.
Yeah, Bows are fifth for me, so they are.
Had a feeling.
Keith Buckley coming back, but I don't know. I think that's a sign of desperation as well. Now it's one way or the other. I think it could be an absolute great thing because we know how much he loves Bows and how much Bows loves him and so on. So I think it could be a good thing, but I also like that you don't know what sort of frame of mind or shape he's coming into, especially after taking a year off, and he's no spring chicken either at the same time. So that could catch up with him. But like that, the sign of Dylan Connolly, I think is excellent. You have a good winger there. He's pacey, gets him behind you, but he's also a bit of a nasty streak about him. Dean Williams, this is going to be a big test for him. Besides, like he wasn't really going to feature at Rovers, but like this is his big chance now to make an impression on the league. Maybe Devine can put him into a system at Bowes, which would cater to him. Care to him scoring goals. I'm still 50-50 about them. Like they're nowhere near as good as defensively, and like that Declan Devine, I still don't know if it's a good appointment. I'm being nice to them. I had them at fifth.
You wish you could put them a lot lower, don't you, Adzi?
You know my history with them.
I've Bows in fifth as well. I don't see them breaking that top 4. I think that top 4 is going to be pretty solid again this year. But I wouldn't be as negative about Bows' chances as I think about being. I think they've got the numbers in up top. They've got certainly the 3 in up top that you mentioned. I think Akintunde will be a pretty good signing. Dylan Connolly is a decent signing. And they have Dean Williams in as well. Then McDonald came into midfield alongside, of course, as you said, Keith Buckley, who's the big signing. Paddy Kirkback will help shore up that defence a little bit, but there's no question, and they are very light at the back. But I don't know. I mean, as you say, Bowls fans in general seem to be strangely optimistic going into the new year. Too optimistic, maybe. But I think they will improve based on last year. I do think there is room for improvement. I think holding on to Ali Coote is a big one. We all expected Burt and Coote to both be gone.
Yeah.
Neither of them played a whole lot last year. They certainly didn't play to their best. So I think the fact that Coote is kind of committed to the club he stayed, you'd expect to see him back in the first team and back performing at a much higher level. I think that's another big boost in them as well. So I think Buckley, Coote, Paddy Kirk. Of course, they've lost a couple. Jordan Doherty got their Player of the Year last year, and he's gone back to America. So swings and roundabouts. But I do think Balls will improve a bit this year. I think they've got a couple in terms of numbers. Sure, that they are lacking in certain areas of the field, but I think they've added quality rather than quantity. They've added a couple of players who will make a bit of a difference, and I do think they'll be less underwhelming, say, than they were last year.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, you could be right. You could be right. The cute one is interesting if he is fully all in and fully committed. Like, he is a cracking little player. I was actually hoping Shells could pick him up, but obviously wasn't to be. Maybe if we got Europe. But speaking of Shells, that's who I've gone for in fifth. I've gone for a top half finish for Damien Duss. So I potentially a little bit optimistic, but I think I'm really happy with the fact that they got the business done very, very early. Brought a lot of players in. They've a full preseason behind them. The team has had time to gel, to bond, and obviously the core of the team is still there from last year, and it's a very young team last season as well. So a full Premier Division campaign behind them, I can't see them not doing worse than last year. I can see them really, really thriving. Obviously, your Jack Moylan's for first full season Premier Division football. I think he's going to really take off this year. Matty Smith, I think, is a fantastic signing. I think he probably nearly gets into every team in the league, bar maybe a Derry or a Rovers. Every team outside that, I think he starts for. Sean Boyd, of course, last season had a great year, got into the team of the season as well. So that's a very strong front line. Obviously, Carl Robinson adds to the options up there as well. But I think one of the most underrated signings of the season and could go on to be one of the players of the year. And he's actually, I have an outside shout, is I think he's going to earn himself a move to England by the end of the season, is Mr. Tyreek Wilson. He's had his doubters at Bohemians last year. He wasn't overly convincing at times. I think in a back four, he can be potentially got at defensively, but I think confidence was shot for everyone at Bows last year. In the years before that, he was fantastic, technically on the ball, fantastic, great delivery, free kicks, he's a threat, corners would be excellent as well. So my outside shout, in the five at the back system, you'll have more protection behind him, more of a license to get forward. I think Tyreek Wilson could be one of the players of the year this season. I think Shells could have a really, really strong season. They could surprise a few. Paddy Barrett coming in at the back adds that little bit of experience that maybe they were lacking last season. If they can keep him fit, it's a great signing. Andrew Quinn coming in as well to offer more depth. Yeah, I'm really, really optimistic about Shells' chances this season. Everyone's a year older, a year more experience, and I think they could crack that top five. We're into our top four now, lads. And Colin, we'll start off with you. Who have you got
This
now?
is where it gets serious. I fancy Dundalk fourth. I don't fancy them to do all that much more than that. We're kind of in the twilight of this Dundalk era. You know, at some point they're going to really have to shake up that team and either push back up the table or fall down it. But for the moment, I think they'll hold on to that European spot without really inspiring much either.
Yeah, maybe due to kind of the lack of quality below them potentially.
Yeah. They're you know, the top four that we had last year, I don't see it changing much. I think the top two, again, we'll get to that. I think Dundalk and Pats really will be third and fourth. It could be third, you know, Dundalk come third, Pats fourth, or the other way around. I would say Dundalk are slightly the lesser of those two teams. They've signed pretty well. They've held on to the to nearly all of the team, I think, from last year. They haven't really lost anyone. So don't expect them to disimprove. But I also don't think there's much evidence there that they're going to be threatening Rovers or Derry either.
No, I've gone with the same. I've gone for Dundalk and fourth. And they kind of, the transfer policy, as you said, kind of got looking towards the UK. It's kind of, they haven't brought in much, but what they've brought in is kind of these young British players that we don't know much about, but they're coming from decent academies potentially. So they could be strong options. They've gone in for Louis Ainsley from Blackburn, Hayden Muller, Connor Malley. A couple of young lads. I think Louis Ainsley, I think it's him. I think he's like 2021, but I think he has like 50 caps for Gibraltar or something. A bit of a funny stat. But it's hard to know what to make of Dundalk this season. Obviously, a lot of unknowns, but they have kept hold of your Darrell Leahy's, Pat Hobans, Daniel Kelly, Ryan O'Kane looks a cracking little player, Greg Sloggett. There's a lot of LOI, like top LOI talent that kind of just will keep them ticking over. And I think fourth is a fair shout. I've gone for them there as well.
Yeah, I'll go for the same. I'm going for Dundalk at fourth. I swear me and Con never knew each other before this because we pretty much have the same list up until now. But no, I'm gonna go with the same with Dundalk. I actually think O'Donnell won't even last the season with them.
Big shout. Big shout.
I just think that there's a bit of a staleness up there at the moment since, you know, the Javagnoli era. He hasn't, like, he's done okay with them, but he could have easily stayed at Pats, I think, and he would have done even better maybe at Pats. But now I think there is a bit of staleness at Dundalk now. Like you said, they're coming towards the end of their cycle. They are having like that. A lot of players stick around like good LOI lads, but I think they'll start to move on soon. And I think Hoban now is, especially like Hoban is coming towards the end, maybe Gartland, retiring. That's absolutely massive. You can nearly argue he's Mr. Dundalk, and now that character's gone out of the change room and stuff. So I'm gonna go with Dundalk to finish fourth, but kind of just linger around there, fourth and fifth as well.
That's an interesting one about O'Donnell getting sacked, because I feel like there is pressure potentially on him, or maybe a Tim Clancy with Keith Long kind of waiting in the wings, potentially ready to jump at a club at like that kind of area of the table. I think Keith Long could be someone that someone like a Pats or Dundalk would opt for if they were getting rid of their current manager. And I think it could be not like a race for him, but like it's like Everton getting Sean Dyche or something, like that the first relegation club to go get the guy that is like a guaranteed decent manager, whereas there's not much else on the market. If you do need to change it up, I think Keith Long's probably the best LOI manager that's currently without a club, and I think I could see somebody going in for somebody like him potentially.
And the fact that they took Dundalk was so much backing as well. If that was to happen with O'Donnell, I'd be the first to jump on Keith Long as well. I know we didn't finish well with Bowes last year, and we've given him a lot of stick. But all in all, I think, given the resources, he could be a very good manager in the league. He already is a very good manager in the league, given what he did with Bowes. Just given that extra few quid to spend and so on, I think he could be excellent.
Similar to what we said about Dundalk there a minute ago, it went stale for Keith Long at Bowes. That's all there was to it. He was an excellent manager. He did a brilliant job with very limited resources for a very long time. There's no question the caliber of a manager that he is in this league. So wouldn't be one bit surprised to see him back in the first managerial seat that becomes available.
Jumping into third place, we'll start off with you, Con. Who have you gone for?
Going with Pats. As I said, I hinted at it there earlier. I do think it's a straightforward enough one. Pats are a really good side.
Yeah.
For me, they're comfortably the third best in the league, but it's a real ask for anyone to trouble Rovers and Derry with the investment that they've got, with the kind of head start that they've got in terms of the pure talent and ability that is on the field for those two clubs, the strength and depth they've got as well. So Pats are definitely the pick of the bunch. They're the best of the rest, but don't see them troubling the top two. I think they will finish third. They will impress, but it'll go no higher than that. Jake Mulroney in from Orlando was a really interesting one. He's a lad who's had 50 or 60 appearances with Cayley Thistle and with Hearts over in Scotland. So he said, he's played a lot of football at a high level. Tom Lonergan in from UCD is a kind of an exciting one as well. He's another promising young fella from within the league. So look, they've recruited well. They've lost a couple, but they've lost lads to Cork, to Shells. Not holding on to Barry Cotter will be a source of disappointment for them, sure. But I think overall they have recruited pretty well. As I said, similar to what I said about both quality over quantity. They've held on to most of their team from last year, which would have been the priority for them. They didn't need to shake anything up hugely. They just needed to try and keep building. And I think they've done that with those couple of very interesting signings that they have brought in. And as I said, I expect them to be comfortably ahead of the rest in third place, but not quite able to break that. Not quite able to break into the top two.
Yeah, I'd agree with you as well. I've gone for Pats in third as well. I think Mulroney is a good sign, and it'd be interesting to see what he's like. But I think it's a good little bit of business, and Lonergan as well. I'm really excited to see. Obviously, it was fantastic with UCD and was a massive part, and then staying up last season. That's a really exciting transfer. Probably one of the most sought after young players in the league, nearly. And so it'll be interesting. And it'd be interesting to see if he kind of plays alongside Nolan Doyle, or if it's instead of, or off the bench, or whatever. How they do that, it will be interesting. But yeah, as you said, kept hold of a lot of players last year. But the Cotter lot is Barry Cotter, a huge loss. Adam O'Reilly, of course, in midfield, who's gone to Derry, is a big loss as well. But yeah, I think they'll be comfortably third. I think that there's a little bit of a middle ground between Dundalk and whether it be the top two. So yeah, I've gone Pats as well.
No, I'm pretty much the same as you. Pats in third. Seeing Pats play, all their players ran through Forrester. So they need more support for him. If you close down Forrester, you've pretty much won the game, I think, anyway. So I think the likes of Mulroney signing, they're probably kicking themselves they couldn't get O'Reilly back. Just considering the who was he with? Preston, was it?
Preston, yeah. And then he was
Yeah,
with
considering they were just letting him win the walk.
mm.
Um, he brought that energy and so on. But Barry Cotter, it's a strange one because he loved his time there by all accounts, even though he looked at it. But what a top Pats would have picked him up. But
Do you
there
know,
must be
do you know
one
what
there.
I love the shithousery around this was because who did he go to? He went to, I think it was a League One team picked him up.
Barnsley, I believe.
Barnsley,
Barnsley, it was
wasn't it?
Barnsley, yeah. And they got him for 30 grand. And I believe Pats offered like 40 or 50, and Rovers still sold him to Barnsley for less money just so he wouldn't get the Pats. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, funny,
I
funny.
thought he was on the I thought he was on the PFEI list. I
No,
saw
no, he was
his
still
name on that
contracted to
list.
Rovers. Yeah, I'm surprised Rovers didn't try to keep him, especially with Andy Lyons. With Andy Lyons going, I was surprised he didn't try and keep hold of him. But maybe he wanted to go.
Yeah, perhaps they could. You never know what's going on behind thing. But no,
Yeah,
um, back to Pats. I think they'll do well. I think they will get closer to that top two. But like as we said, it's hard to kind of get into there. But I think they'll do well again. Yep.
in we go to the top two, lads, and this is getting very, very interesting. I'm still kind of half debating in my head because I think it's going to be really, really tight this season, and I'm excited for it because I think it's the first time you've really. I know last year at times it felt like, but I think Rovers are always just kind of pulling away. I think this year is going to be an awful lot tighter, and I have gone for Rovers to lose their grip on the title. I have gone for Shamrock Rovers in second place.
That is a very interesting call. A very interesting
I
call. I
know.
think. Look, even as a Shells fan, I hated every minute of that FAI Cup final last year. But if Derry had beaten anyone else, I would be able to say, look, it's great for the league. It's great to see a city team like Derry doing well, competing for trophies, winning trophies. I think it'd be great for the league if Rovers' Bayern Munich-esque dominance was put on hold for a year and someone else got it in. I know, Adam, you mightn't like to hear that, but I think for the good of the league, it would be fantastic if Derry
Yeah,
could
you're
win it.
right there.
But I just don't think they're there yet. I really do. I think Colin Wales is a very good signing, a very interesting signing. Look, they've recruited well. Is I suppose a team with the clubs higher up the league is there is slightly lower turnover of players. They've held on to their squad from last year, the bones of it, and added a couple of players to it. But I do think Derry will end up missing out and finishing second.
And I can only presume that Adsy is agreeing with you.
So I'm going with Rovers in second.
Oh.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Never. Um, no, I think I'd agree with Con there. Derry are getting there, but you could see it towards the end of the last season. They got tired when results weren't like when, say, the last 10, 15 games, they were dropping points. Not saying Rovers weren't as well because we were with the whole European stretch. So Rovers are just getting as tired, but I think when it came down to it, there was just a bit more that got Rovers over the line. However, I think Derry, especially with they've developed a core up there now, a good spine in their team. And adding to that, I think Colin Whelan, to be honest, I'm raging we haven't got him
Mm.
because seeing him play, especially for a young lad like him, he was very similar to the way Gaffney played, but he was also nasty. Like I remember seeing him in the playoff. It was the playoff against Waterford. Would have been over a year now when they first got promoted. He's there throwing experienced centre halves, like grabbing them and throwing them on the floor. Like he doesn't really care. That didn't phase him, and I think you need that in a striker, a little bit of nastiness, a little bit of bite. So I think he's going to do excellent for them, as well as they have good depth and so on. But with what Rovers are going for this year, I think the four in a row is just right. There's more of a push now this year than there was last year. There was that gap in between last year. Obviously, they wanted to win the league, but now that they have the chance to kind of emulate what was done in the 80s, and if not even better, that I think that'll push them to just get over the line as well. And coming with the experience in Europe, I think it'll get them over the line. But no, I think Derry, yeah, they're gonna push us again, but they'll fall short again. I think.
Are you not convinced by the President's Cup performance? Is that not a factor at all in your mind?
No, because that same 11 that played the President's Cup will never play again. Um, Not like as in like that selective 11. Like there was, I think Marcus Poom was very good in the middle of the park for us. We still have Rory Gaffney to come back. You know, he's like uh the
Is
two
Poom
wing
going to be
backs.
man Poom going to be a consistent starter this year? Is he?
Yeah, I think so. He's a
Yeah,
very nice footballer,
I haven't seen him
but
yet
looks
I'm
actually.
for.
uh, I'm disappointed we seem to be missing all of our Arsenal contingent. I was looking forward to hearing their views on Mart Pooms, young fella coming
Yeah,
to the League of Ireland. It was a
Yeah,
really
yeah,
random
actually.
one, a very random one.
yeah.
He played for did he play for Derby as well? Or was that
I'm
he
not
was definitely
sure.
Arsenal, but
Yeah,
he
Could have
played
done.
for another few clubs over there, but no, he looks a tidy player, in fairness to Marcus, and then having the likes of Trevor Clark coming back.
It's big.
Um Perugia, especially coming off the end of the season that you had. You know, there's talks from even going to the Ireland setup, get a bit of training and stuff in there. No, I think now is the time to push for the four in a row. And I think once you win it this year, I think that'll be it. I think that cycle of Rovers will be done. A few players will go.
Yeah.
And I just think this year is just so important.
I just think Derry are going to be more hungry for it, and that's why I've got them top of the league. I think Rovers will probably potentially have more of a focus on Europe, and they'll potentially be kind of. I just thought that I think that President's Cup game is going to be significant. I think it's going to be mentally. I think it's going to be significant, and I think Derry will start the season strongly. And I just don't see many squads better than them this year. And they've as kind of Con made a good point in terms of the turnover, the top end of the league. It's always been just Rovers that have had that losing players that didn't really want, and then bringing in two or three really, really high quality players that will add something to the squad. And of course, they've done that this year in Liam Burt, Johnny Kenny, as we've all kind of said. Um, but I think Derry have done the exact same this season. They've brought in Colin Whelan, they've brought in Adam O'Reilly, who's a fantastic midfielder. Ben Doherty, I haven't seen an awful lot of him, but I've heard really good things. Matthew Ward has come in as well, a winger. So I think the depth in their squad's really strong. I think they've a really really solid core group from last year that, of course, have now tasted some silverware and winning the FAI Cup in such convincing fashion. And I think they'll take so much confidence into the new year. And they have players that have been there, done it. They have their Michael Duffy's, they have their McElhenney's, players that have won league titles before and are more than able to do so again. So I fancy Derry City to finish the 2023 season as champions.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Just I suppose one last point there on those Rovers transfers. Like the big one, obviously, is that they did lose Andy Lyons, but
Yeah,
as we touched on there before, they lost Andy Lyons. They were straight back in to bring back Trevor Clark from Bristol Rovers, and I think that's really makes a big difference with Rovers over the last couple of years. You see it with Jack Byrne, you've seen it now with Trevor Clark, with Daniel Cleary coming in from St Johnstone. Players who leave the league and maybe don't necessarily hit the heights that they'd hoped come back, and they come back to Rovers,
yeah,
and they're still, top caliber players in this league. And so they've really, they've hoovered up some really serious talent, um, both in players returning that have previously been with Rovers or been with other clubs in the league and have gone elsewhere, or as you say, with young talent like Johnny Kenny and Marcus Poom. And then obviously their favorite pastime, hoovering up those as star players every winter window. Um, so yeah, I think Rovers are going to be a force to be reckoned with again. And unfortunately, the only thing I can disagree with Adam with is that I don't think this year is going to be the end of it either. I think they'll be that team has uh, you know, not only that team, but the fact that they recruit so well, Rovers will be around the top of that league
yeah.
for another couple of years at least.
Did you have the exact same 10, lads?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
We
nuts.
did, yeah. Rovers, Derry, Pats, Dundalk, Bows, Sligo, Shells, Cork, Drogheda, and UCD.
Maybe it's a case of great minds thinking alike.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Not at all. Don't get
Although I've
your
been
hopes up.
swayed, I have to say, Ross, I've been swayed by your argument that Shells are going to push up that table.
Swap bows and
Who
shells
knows?
there.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have to stop at fifth. Maybe we can dream.
You never know. You never know. I feel like it is like a case of it being like a couple of little mini leagues throughout the league. It's like UCD, Drogs, Cork, then you go to Sligo, Bows, Shells, then you go Dundalk, Pats, then you go Derry Rovers. Like it's a lot of little pockets, but I feel like I'd be surprised if anyone kind of breaks out of those little areas. Where we've all kind of agreed on certain positions. But yeah, fascinating year in store.
I think in terms of the league this year, the biggest one for a while, and there's so much at stake. Reputations on the line, um, history trying dethrone, and there's so many stories going into it. You couldn't write about a television program if you ask me. So I think it's going to be absolutely deadly. I think it's going to be a cracker this
Yeah.
season from top to bottom. There's going to be so much in between. So buzzing for it.
Yeah. Con, great to get you on the channel. How you feeling ahead of the big kickoff Friday? Excited?
Buzzing, absolutely buzzing. As I said, it's not just the football itself, is it? When you have your football on a Friday night, you're noticing the evenings get a bit longer. The sun stays shining. You can go out for a couple of points after work before heading into Talca. Hopefully the weather staves off. Be a bit of a be a bit of a downer if it started off with lashing the rain or anything along those lines. But look, it's buzzing to get the league back underway. It's a big season. It's an exciting season. We're going to have, as you said, a couple of mini leagues up and down the table, which is going to make it really, really competitive. We should have a great title race between those top two. Bit of competition for those European spots. Who knows? We could be wrong. Maybe someone like Bowes or Shouts could push Dundalk for that fourth spot.
Yeah.
And who knows? We could be wrong about UCD as well. Maybe they'll exceed our expectations. Maybe someone like Cork or Drogheda or Sligo, with all the change they've had, could end up being dragged into a race there. Either way, look, we're set for a really competitive season. I think top to bottom of the league.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Lads, an absolute pleasure as always. Make sure to drop a like on the video if you did enjoy, and be sure to subscribe as well. Plenty more where this came from. And buzzing for Friday evening. Have a good one, guys.
Excellent.